Hello, my name is Tim Gard. I am a resident of the Philippines on the island of Samal, the southern part of the Philippine nation. I am an expat, originally from Western New York. I lived in a small village called Blaisdell. I served on the local Rotary Club in the Blaisdell-Lackawanna Club quite a few years ago. Uh, I worked in Rotary for about 12 years. I also served on the board of directors and also worked as treasurer for 1 year, vice president and president, as well as board of directors position. Um, Rotary was an excellent way for me to give back to the community. I'm singing the praises of Rotary to people of Rotary, and you know how important your service is to your community and to your nation and to your world. My experiences in Rotary was fairly heavy into fundraising, into getting the money we needed to do the things that we did in our club, and also to assist uh, the local Rotary district and the country of the United States and internationally. If you're a Rotarian, you're probably well aware of the Polio Plus Fund. It was something that we were very big into at the time that I was in Rotary. Um, the the other thing that we did at our club was a spaghetti dinner. One of our Rotary Club members owned an Italian restaurant, and they put together a yearly dinner and did very well at that dinner, raising funds. The other thing that we did, though, which raised almost as much funds as the spaghetti dinner, was the lollipop campaign. My neighbor was actually the one who started this up and got it running. And being my neighbor, I had conversations with him on a regular basis and eventually became very much involved in it. The funds that we used to raise this, we dedicated to the uh, to a fundraiser for handicapped students. The competition for scholarship funds was pretty tough in most of our public schools, and it was very unlikely that a handicapped student would be able to qualify for some of these. Uh, so we looked at this from this point of view and said, okay, we can do this. We can generate scholarship funds to help a handicapped student to get into more advanced training, whether it be a, a simple 2 year degree or beyond. We got to a point where we were giving out two $10,000 scholarships every year, and we got all of that money for those scholarships from Tootsie Roll Pops. We put together a number of boxes like this, and they were usually very colorful. They included our Rotary logo so people would know who was handling the money. People who knew about Rotary knew that every cent that we collected would go towards this fund. There was none of these funds used to do anything else other than this. Even these boxes were bought and paid for by individual Rotary members. So even the boxes for the fundraiser were free, they were donated. My club had about 40 members, and we had a little over 100 of these boxes out. So basically, we asked each member to find two locations to place these in, and most of them would have somebody else in business that they knew that wasn't a Rotarian that would allow us to place one of these boxes in their stores. And with the boxes, we also had a Rotary pamphlet that kind of explained who Rotary was and what we did. So we also kind of used it to teach people about Rotary. But the important thing was that the amount of money that it generated for us. Um, we charged 25 cents for a Tootsie Roll Pop. Now, the Tootsie Roll Pop suckers are a little bit bigger than the ones that are here, and the spare change that your typical American family would have a little bit more. So I'm looking at setting these up at being 5 pesos a sucker. Um, uh, the cost of the suckers that I have here are about 1.5 pesos. So the profit of 3.5 pesos would go towards this fund. Now, a lot of times in my Rotary Club's case, we would simply mention at a meeting that we needed to purchase more suckers for these things, and one of our members would jump up and say, "Hey, I'll buy you a bag of suckers, so you don't have to spend any of the money out." So in reality, we received almost all of the suckers, even for free, just from our local members who would occasionally chip in to buy the suckers for the thing. Um, Over a period of time, that allowed us to get up to that point where we were giving out two $10,000 scholarship funds to two different handicapped people within our district, uh, and um, and still had money in the bank uh, that was bringing in interest on this, so that we could continue to do it year after year. And the idea was is that we would continue raising funds for this thing, and at some point we would get to a third scholarship fund, and then a fourth and a fifth. By the time I retired and I left Rotary, we were giving out two. When I started, it had just started, and we were just taking one scholarship. We did put some money from our other club funds in at that point to make that one, but eventually these sucker boxes got it up to the point where it was self-sufficient. Um, I'm going to leave a link down below, and if you think that this is something that your local club might like to do to help increase the amount of money that you have to support your local community, just send me an email and I'll answer any questions that you might have on our experiences, and I can even tell you where I had this one built, so you can contact these guys. They already know what it is, and basically you just have to tell them that you're looking for one, and they can build it for you. Um, Now, I have another project that I'm working on now that through my experience with Rotary, it's pretty obvious that this is something that Rotarians would greatly enjoy becoming involved in. Uh, Over the last few months, the prices of oil has been skyrocketing. And because most of the electricity generated in the Philippines is generated using oil, the prices of the local electric are starting to increase significantly. Um, and because the Philippine nation is not as wealthy as like United States and the other larger nations, puts a particularly hard strain on the residents of the Philippines. And as long as they're generating electricity with oil, every time the price of oil goes up, the cost of electricity is going to increase. And it's going to increase at a rate much faster than the average income of the average Philippine. So these new electricity costs are putting a strain on Philippine families. My background is in electrical engineering. I am well aware of systems that are being built right now that are renewable energy systems, and mostly on large scale and very expensive. But there are uh, smaller system designs that are a lot less expensive that would serve a fewer amount of people, but they're less expensive enough that a fewer amount of people could actually have one of these built and gain the advantage out of having renewable energy uh, generated with local wind and solar rather than fossil fuel energy that had to be purchased from nations outside the Philippines on prices that are continuously rising for those fossil fuel materials. The um, the idea is for a local barangay to build one of these systems. Now, the reason that I'm saying a local barangay is because a local barangay cannot profit from generating electricity. They cannot receive any more funds than what they need to provide whatever service it is. A good example for a barangay is fresh, clean water. The barangay handles the water systems within their barangay. The people in the barangay do have to pay for this water, but they aren't giving any profits to anybody for it. The money that they put into it strictly is used to provide that water for them. And that's because the barangays own that system themselves. What I would be doing would be building this system to generate electricity and then giving it to the barangay so that the barangay can then charge its residents exactly what it costs them to generate the electricity. Now, these machines are nothing magical. They're being built around the world right now for small applications. Basically, what we would be doing would be to build a small wind turbine that's small enough that local people could build it out of local materials. It would be a vertical turbine because the horizontal turbines are very expensive and frankly they're not very good with the local animals. The vertical wind turbines are close enough together that birds won't be injured flying into them. And they're inexpensive enough that a barangay could afford to build these and maintain them to make sure that they keep running. These vertical wind turbines are nothing new. They've been around for many, many years. But the larger horizontal wind turbines are what always seem to be chosen to generate enough electricity for 20 barangay. And because of that, only a profitable company would do it. So the price of electricity is pretty much nailed to whatever the cost of electricity is for oil burning. By building their own locally, they are totally disconnected from fossil fuels, so they can get the price of electricity way down to about 10% of what it costs you with one of these larger wind turbines. So, uh, what I am looking to do is to find Rotary clubs who would help me raise the funds to do the first build. I'm going to be doing this first build here in my barangay, Piña Plata, and I will be showing the local people here how to build it, where to build it, and how to maintain it. Um, After it's built, I am going to ask them to charge half what the people in the barangay were paying for the electricity, which would basically mean that the local barangay is making a profit, which remember they can't do. But I would be asking them to raise the money back to pay back the money that was given to them to build it, which they can do that. So Rotary normally doesn't want money back that they provide for people. So what I would hope that your club would do when this barangay pays you back would be to return it to a neighboring barangay and give them an opportunity to do the same thing. So now the money that you donated for the first build is returned, and then you could donate it again. Now, if you decide to do this every year, then the next year when you have this money returned from the first barangay, you can take money that you raised and put that together with the first one, and then the second year you can do too. But what I'm going to be doing, talking to this barangay here, is I'm going to be saying, okay, we gave you $1,000,000 pesos. I'm picking a number out of the air. We gave you $1,000,000 pesos to build the first one. You are going to need to pay us back 2,000,000 pesos. 1,000,000 goes to the Rotary, which paid for it to begin with, and the other 1,000,000 we're going to use to build another system in the neighboring barangay. So we are going to use the money that is being paid by these local barangays to expand into other barangays. So the first barangay, Pina Plata, in my case, their electric prices would drop by 50%, and the other 50% would be used to pay back Rotary and to pay the building costs for a neighboring barangay. Once those two things are paid back, then the price of electricity for Pina Plata would drop down to about 10% of what they're paying right now and would stay there because their electricity prices would not be affected by the prices of oil ever again. And the 10% that they do charge would be used to pay the the electric companies who would maintain the poles and the services to the houses, and to maintain the equipment, maintain and operate the equipment in their barangay. So all of this money that used to leave the Philippines to go all over the world would now stay within those barangay, which is going to be a huge increase in the money spent within the local communities, which is going to be a great increase in the quality of life for the people that live in that barangay. Now, as a Rotarian, I know I would look at this and say, you know what? Very, very little work for us to do as Rotarians, but a huge effect on the people who are involved in this project on the receiving end. So if besides looking at these boxes as fundraisers for your club, if you would also consider contacting me and asking if you could become involved in our program here, even if it's just for 1 year, fellas. I'm not asking for a continuous fundraiser for you here. 1 year is fine. If you want to do two, we would be thrilled to death because, frankly, it's a big world. um, Nobody knows how big the Philippines is, except Rotarian Filipinos. Nobody knows how big the world is in reality, other than world Rotarians. So if you'll send me a you can either send me a text or you can send me an email. I'll give you the contact information below. If you have questions and if you would like to become involved in this program, I would welcome your assistance with this with open arms. Thank you very much.